Alright, I will point out now, though it looks like you have a profile in this drawing, you do not. You just have some data that is on a set of layers that, in fact, that are something you can transfer out. So the problem with some is they have a hard time managing, so it's not a bad idea sometimes to go ahead and put circles at all of your key points, and then potentially when you need to, you can get rid of your line. So I'm going to put a circle there. I'm going to point out, because of our overlap is where that line is coming from, I'm going to put a circle there. Good neutral objects. And you're going to see later on, very transferable circle at the end point there. And I'm really not thinking too much at this point, I haven't been, about looking exactly what the constraints were on the other side. So that you would have a lot more than a few circles in there. You would have, these circles are marking points. If you have actually pipes in there, they will look like this, an ellipse. And they're going to look more like this because this is out of scale 10 in the y direction. So all that said, I'm going to double check that this first point is beginning actually at the end of our alignment there. I'm hitting an F8, which doesn't always work. Alright, I'm going to keep going in here because what happens is I ended up hitting the pause button. With Cam Studio Ortho, the F8 button turns off Cam Studio. So you really want to get these things lined up and realize that in profile, intersecting pipes will look like that. You're going to have maybe a number of driveways put in here. You're going to have a lot of vertical constraints in this profile drawing. You will also have them marked up. Go jump, showing you how views work. Go back to overall plan, set current. If you go back to here, you'll also have vertical things marked up here as well. So for instance here, we know that the end of our cul-de-sac is somewhere around 207 plus 60 or so. So we might want to write that down. The end of our cul-de-sac is 207 plus 60. So these things get marked up in both the horizontal and the vertical. Back V for vertical, V for view, or using the view toolbar is reasonable. Having it around is a great idea. I just have not developed that habit. Bad me. I'm going to hit OK here. You see that we have overlapped our profiles a little bit. We'll live with that, and now we're ready to go to the profile stuff. At this point, you just really don't need these lines, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them so they are not too confusing. Or I could do this at this point, W block. I could right away say that I'm going to send out some nice information. I want to know where it is. You know, we see these different files floating around here, so I'm going to stick it down wherever, save it out as an 04, hit save. You're going to select your objects, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to leave it at 0, 0, and you're just going to hit OK, and you're going to send out. We want to make sure I get a name, so we're going to call this December 4th out. Sure, I send it out, and in reality now I am a little bit happier about erasing these out because I'm just going to use those points then on the Z constraints for designing my roadway. So remember, profile creation tools. Select a profile to create the view, give it a name that makes sense, proposed, centerline. Hit OK, and then use these tools that are fixed tangent 2 points. Shift right click. You've got those things to jump to center. This is where the scripting would come in. Shift right click the center. It's asking a start point each time. So at the start point you need to say at. And so as I go here, I'm going to turn off the ortho. You say at for the beginning and then to the center. And then again you say at. That seems to be, I don't know why it's set up that way. It's for drafting short tangents that are not connected, which doesn't make a lot of sense in most projects, but it can make sense in many. So now you've got that designed. The next step is to run your vertical curves through, and so you want to double check that your grades are within normal. You're going to have some design buttons to hit soon. right? And so right now you can now go to the point of doing the vertical curve parameter, grab the first, grab the second, and then I'll just try for now a 200-foot curve, and that's not looking too bad, so I'll leave that there. I go to this one here, and the next one I'll go ahead and put a 200-foot curve, and on that last one I will do a much shorter one, that one there and that one there, and I'll make a 100-foot curve. It now is designed at this point or earlier is the time that you would have gone down here to this and changed for one thing, and this is now going to jump it, I think. So I'm going to make a mistake here, but I'm not going to move things back. It changes that. You notice there when it changed that, it go ahead and screwed up where everything was at. So be aware of that switch. So it went ahead and changed everything where it was, but to get my labeling, that's going to be necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and live with that. Still needs to be put back where it belongs, right? If it shifted around, so right here, the ID, the end of this one here, it's correct up and down, but it's not correct left and right, so that's going to have to be moved. So here you have then that ability to realize when things jump around why it was nice to have these starting points. So I can go ahead and, if you remember that point there, I can now move this thing back without too much of a hassle. Line from the end point of that to the center of that. Once again, now you can left click spacebar, B for base point, kind of zoom in. Your base point is going to be from the end point of that. Your second base point is going to be the end of that, and you should have everything back to where it was supposed to be. Why it acts like that, I don't know, and I'm going to try to discover today, but you all of a sudden always want to then look at your coordinates and see that, yep, things are looking about right and everything's good. File save on a regular and recurrent basis. And this is the point you would like to go and get some labels here so you don't have to think about it again. You want to go to Profile View Properties. You want to go to the bands and make sure that the bands are labeled. Profile 2 should be proposed centerline, profile 1 proposed centerline, and the other one should be probably Tyler Civil. Hit apply, okay, and then you double check that you banded correctly. This should be a fill section here, and it is, as is most of this. So there's two things on here that on the profile view besides getting it in the right spot that will throw you. One is that you go to there, Profile View Properties, you have to go to Information. It's an odd spot to turn off all those layers. So it's in a setting move. It's not in a layer manager move, it would appear. Now the other one, in fact, is this stuff along the bottom, the labels, and I didn't actually do it right, so I'll do it again. I probably did not hit propose. Profile View Properties. You go to here. You want to go ahead and turn those off. You can go ahead and save the style that does not have those on. Many of you are probably quite capable of doing it, I guess, without it, but it's probably a good idea to clear them out so you're looking at the design and not at all the lines. The other one was the labeling along the bottom. Once again, Profile View Properties. Going to here, the bands, and one of the things that's nice to change is that to 0.12 inches, and then what we talked about before, some of the other labels here. So hit OK. It kind of pushes that up a little closer in the page, and you're looking at a pretty good design at this point. You have kind of finished out your vertical. You've got some points here that you can label later on. You can come back and label. You've left some room here for effectively for probably a lane widening out there in the highway. You can think about sight distances. You can be able to run out some 3D points. You've got a lot of information here already. So we're going to go ahead and just for that purpose, so you've got some good information, we're going to go ahead and put in some points right away and export them. That's going to be for the visualization coming down. 2 sets of points. You can do this kind of visualization along a path before you actually do the road design. So I'm going to go ahead and remind that you can go ahead back to your points. And you have all experience putting points at alignments, and you can actually go ahead and divide an alignment or measure an alignment. We're going to use measure an alignment. It's going to go ahead and give us select the alignment. You have to pick this one. It doesn't let you pick from a list, which means you have to now jump back. Before you jump back, you'd like to make a view. Mine is view overall, or this is profile cul-de-sac. One word, I guess. You're going to go ahead and put it here. Window, overall, or I'm sorry, profile, cul-de-sac. Give it a corner here, here. To do the points, you've actually got to jump down back to the overall plan. It's unusual you have to do that, but at this point you can make now a bunch of points and then export them, and then we'll do the points for the other ones so you can do the visualization. You see it jumps around back to 1 to 200 on a semi-recurrent basis, so we're not going to flip it yet. That's problematic is what I'm going to say, but you just got to be aware that always go back and check that your profile hasn't moved. That's one thing that why you use the right block command. We can now go to points, alignments, measure alignment, select your alignment. You now have a choice. Propose would make a lot of sense. Hit OK here. Starting station works for me, but we could just go with a middle, which would be 20000. Ending station is fine. Specify an offset 0. I'm going to put the interval here at 5. All right, at 5. You can put it at 1, but I'm going to put it at 1. You're going to have a lot of points. It just did all the points. You're done with the points. You don't want to do much with the points except for export them, and then you're going to go ahead and erase them. So you actually go to point groups or points, right click, export, ENZ, comma delimited is what you want. You want to select some place for now because I'm not quite sure where I am. I'm going to go into C, into the temp, and I'm going to call this cul-de-sac points. So as soon as you have your vertical, you can actually go ahead and put that stuff out. Cul-de-sac points, hit open there, and then you hit OK. It sends out all your points, and then you can go points, select, and then you'll be able to delete them. I might suggest that a good thing to do for this point generation is to save your drawing, do the point stuff, and then just quit out. That's perhaps just me, but I'm going to go ahead and edit points. All right, see how this goes, and exit out. So I'm going to stop it here. What I've got is points out. The next step to do is to go ahead and run your corridor, do your visualization, cut your sheets, and you're done. The step that we will or will not do, depending on time, is this cutting of sections and computations. It is relatively straightforward, but if you haven't managed layers and whatever else, you'll have a hard time with it. Thanks for listening.